there's a black person I'd like to give recognition to during Black History Month, it would be Ida B. Wells.
Today, one of the Black History Month people that I'm going to do today is Ida B. Wells.
Her name was Ida B. Wells.
She was Rosa Parks before there was Rosa Parks.
The way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon them. For my last 60 minutes and 6 minutes, I'm going to talk about the incredible story of Ida B. Wells. Just last Monday in February 2019, the street once known as Congress Parkway in Chicago officially became Ida B. Wells Drive. This coming nearly 90 years after her death in 1931. As I've discussed many times this month, I wanted to look deep into some stories that are often overlooked in American history, and arguably no other demographic has been buried more so in American history than prominent black women. Ida B. Wells was one of those women. Ida was born in the middle of the Civil War, so technically she was born a slave. In post-Civil War America, specifically in the 1800s, lynchings took place all over the American South, with most cases dismissed or thrown out before an investigation was even considered, leading to the same result: murder free from consequence. These lynchings were often treated as gatherings to celebrate the demise of a black person before their eyes. Some would even bring picnics to enjoy the spectacle. However, in 1892, on record one of the worst for lynchings in American history, 3 black grocery store owners in Memphis, Tennessee were murdered by a white mob. The reason, as was true for a lot of excuses offered in such cases, was that black men were going after white women. This case was not to be overlooked, for a passionate young journalist by the name of Ida B. Wells was set to challenge the murderous status quo.
She was a female activist and investigative reporter in a time where standing up for black positions in the United States was close to impossible.
Ida wrote what was considered at the time a scathing article that challenged such reasoning, writing such excuses were just a cover-up and that many of these relationships were actually consensual. She went on to thoroughly investigate many of these countless cases, proving that many of those who were often killed were thriving business owners, like that of those in Memphis, whose grocery store had become popular, diverting business from a white competitor.
That just literally blew things up.
Now, as you can imagine, her words were not exactly well received, and so riots ensued. A white mob burned down her place of work, threatening to lynch her for printing such blasphemous claims. Out of fear for her life, she never returned to Memphis, but this did not stop her. Instead, it galvanized her further, and she traveled to New York, where she published her findings. And after long, she settled in Chicago, where she continued to build from her research, publishing another piece called The Red Record that dove even deeper into the detailed horrors of lynching and systemic corruption that covered them up. Capitalizing on this response, Ida used the foundation she had built for herself to push even further. Despite being disenfranchised herself as a black woman unable to vote, she was instrumental in advocating for such things as the desegregation of the YMCA and shining light on the awful and gross discrimination of workplace practices. She went on to become a key player in the women's suffrage movement, but again was met with friction as she, along with the black members of the movement, were advised to walk at the back of a march in Washington, D.C. But as she did her whole life, she would continue to push against what was deemed normality and walk to the front of the march alongside the white woman. Her unwillingness to compromise with any aspect of her vision and remain firm in her beliefs can be celebrated today, but back then it resulted in her being ignored and sidelined by many leaders of the NAACP, and as a result she was often left out of historical discussions around the role of the NCAA and their key players. She was unwavering in her approach to justice, and truly was a champion of free speech. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Come over to my Instagram at Francis M. Maxwell. You can support independent media here for more videos like this. Did you like this video? Then great. Never miss another breakdown video by hitting the subscribe button below and ring the bell to get notified whenever we publish a new video.